and welcome to the Retrospective review. Christopher Nolan is absolutely my favorite filmmaker ever. His commitment to practical effects, his poetic storytelling, and the way he makes a film both exciting and fun while also making it very deep and meaningful is just completely unmatched. Now I'm really excited for this because this is absolutely my favorite film ever, and it has been since I first saw it about 3 years ago. Now I first saw this film on TV, and when I did, I was blown away by it. I mean, I just needed to have this thing on Blu-ray. In fact, this is really one of the first Blu-rays I ever bought for myself. This is Inception.
There's one thing you should know about me. I specialize in a very specific type of security. Subconscious security.
You're talking about dreams?
Mr. Cobb has a job offer he would like to discuss with you.
Like a work placement?
Not exactly.
We create the world of the dream. We bring the subject into that dream, and they fill it with their secrets.
Then you break in and steal it.
Well, it's not strictly speaking legal.
It's called Inception. I'm ready. I think I found a way home.
And this last job, that's how I get there.
Dreams feel real while we're in them. It's only when we wake up that we realize something is actually strange.
This was your responsibility! We are not prepared for this!
The dream's collapsing.
I have it under control. I'd hate to see out of control.
You mustn't be afraid to dream a little bigger, darling.
So this movie is all about Dominic Cobb, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, and he's what's called an extractor. So he actually breaks into people's minds to commit corporate espionage through their dreams. However, he can't come home. He can't enter the United States because he's wanted for the death of his wife, Moll, who the memory of actually taunts him and destroys his mind to a point where it makes his work near impossible. Now, eventually, he gets hired by a man named Sato to perform what's called Inception, where he is meant to break into someone's mind, and instead of stealing information, he's meant to plant an idea into their subconscious. In return for this, Sato can actually clear his charges, and he can finally return home to his kids. So the idea of actually entering dreams has certainly been done before, but the idea of going into someone's dreams in order to steal information is, as far as I know, completely unique to this movie. And it's also done in such a well thought out and well researched manner that I have yet to see in any other film. Now, I certainly love that there is an implied world outside of this film, what with characters referencing other uses for dream technology, like training in the military, or with them referencing other jobs they might have done in the past, or other people they might have worked with. This type of world building is something that Nolan is really fantastic at. He actually did something very similar with Interstellar, where he created the implication that there was more to this world beyond what you're actually seeing in the film. This idea also allows for a lot more character development in a lot more unique ways, because you can literally go into someone's mind, or as Cobb puts it,
You can literally talk to my subconscious. That's one of the ways we extract information from the subject.
Christopher Nolan is often criticized as having very bland and very cold characters, but I couldn't disagree more. This entire film is about character growth. It's all about learning to let go of your past, learning to let go of people you might have lost and move on with your life so that you can be happy. Characters in this film especially might come across as very cold and emotionless, but that's really because of the emotional walls they've built up to keep people out. Walls that a person like Ariadne is meant to finally tear down. Speaking of which, Ariadne is often called an expedition dump, and again, I couldn't disagree more. Her character is the key to Cobb's entire character arc. I mean, Cobb is struggling to deal with the death of his wife, and Ariadne is the one who finally helps him move on and be able to go see his kids again, not only legally but also emotionally. And beyond that, her personality is incredibly useful to the story and incredibly unique because she provides a fresh look at dream sharing, so she comes up with new ideas that the rest of the crew would have never even thought of. And she also provides a sort of conscience for the team because while the rest of them are really desensitized to immoral action, she is completely new to it. Another underappreciated character is Fisher, who is played brilliantly by Cillian Murphy. He's a character that at first look it seems like the team is just screwing him over, but in reality they are really helping him. They're helping him repair his own relationship with his late father, and they're also helping him see his uncle for his own greedy and selfish intentions.
I know you were disappointed. I couldn't be you. No. I was disappointed. We just tried.
The dialogue in this film is really cleverly used to give much needed exposition in a very unique and natural feeling way. However, it can at times get a bit much and feel more like characters are reading a definition off Webster rather than actually saying these things.
Well, what the hell is down there?
Just raw, infinite subconscious. Nothing is down there. Except for whatever might have been left behind by anyone sharing the dream who's been trapped there before. Which in our case, is just you.
However, this dialogue is also very poetic in a really cool Nolan-style way, and in doing so, it creates countless memorable lines that I really just want on a t-shirt.
It's not, strictly speaking, legal.
I know, but the dream's collapsing.
I bought the airline. It seemed neater.
As Nolan says, he tries to use humor as much as the story will actually support. And his style of witty dialogue can be really funny in these little character moments that just make the film 10 times better.
What's a kick?
This, Ariadne, would be a kick.
Couldn't someone have dreamt up a goddamn beach? Huh?
Paradox.
You mustn't be afraid to dream a little bigger, darling.
The action in this film is really incredible, and it's choreographed in such a way that makes it feel completely real. Every punch, every gunshot, it has just the right amount of impact that you can imagine it might have had if you were actually in the fight yourself, or if you were really watching these two people fighting. And what really helps with the action in this movie is something that I touched on earlier, which is Nolan's commitment to practical effects. By making as much of a film real as possible, it just naturally makes the action feel more real and feel more impactful. Plus, guys in suits fighting is just really cool. It's like James Bond. Now, the set design is also 100% key to the realism of this film, and aside from it all looking and feeling very real, essentially because it is real, It's also really fantastic and unique in the way that every level of the dream has a very different set design. It has a very different feeling to it, and it also has a very different color palette. The top level of the dream being that of a city where it all has a very blue tint and very casual clothing for the costumes. And the second level being that of a hotel where it has a much warmer tint and all of the characters are wearing suits. And the final level having a very cold and white tint, being that it takes place in the snow, and the costume design is all very white camouflaged and it's very tactical. It's actually a lot like the snow mission from Modern Warfare 2. All of these distinct set designs make it much easier to follow the story of this film through all of its different countries, different levels of dreams, and all of its very fast cuts. Now, I promise this is the last time I'm going to mention this, but Nolan is a purist filmmaker, so he tries to use CGI as minimally as possible. And even when he does use it, he uses it to enhance a practical effect rather than just create the entire effect in a computer. So normally in a massive Hollywood movie like this, you would see an overwhelming amount of CGI, but not here. Though at first it might come across as a limitation, it's actually a massive strength in this film, and a huge testament to the skill of the entire crew.
Visual effects technology has been wonderful for enhancing those things and increasing the vocabulary. But sometimes when you're asked to justify these things like not using green screen, you have to just bring it down to, well, it's so much more fun to do it. It's fun for the actors, it's fun for me. There's nothing more dispiriting than when you turn up to work and there's just a green screen with a couple of actors in front of it. It's really, the magic's not there.
And it also makes it much easier for the audience to get invested into the story, and it even allows the film to get away with a lot more crazy visuals because a person can always subconsciously tell what's real and what isn't. On top of that, the way these effects are used in the story is narratively brilliant. Like with whatever happening in one level of the dream having a massive impact on the next, like the van in one dream flipping, which causes gravity to spin in the next dream, which creates one of the coolest action scenes ever. That effect, by the way, was created by building a hallway into what is essentially a massive wheel so that they can spin the entire room and then mount a camera to the floor so that when the actors are actually in the scene, it looks like gravity is spinning.
I mean, the idea of using a centrifuge to manipulate gravity, it's been done on various films, most notably Kubrick's 2001. And I like the idea of repurposing that technology and really trying to choreograph an entire fight sequence and camera movement and all the rest. Really do something that could be completely in camera in a way that I hadn't seen before.
Or more significantly to the story, the freight train is obviously a metaphor for Maul leaking through Cobb's subconscious and ultimately harming him significantly to a point of literally crashing a train through the wall. Now obviously actually driving a train through the streets of New York would just be impossible. So what they've done here is essentially taken the empty shell of a freight train and put it on top of an 18-wheel truck and then driven that through the street. Then using CG to remove the wheels and adding proper train wheels while also creating a nice trail of destruction behind it.
I really felt like the challenge of the scene was to try and get across the incongruity, the strangeness of the image, so that it didn't feel like a regular train crossing. One of the ways we did that is at the last minute, we ordered a lot more cars for it to smash through. We had been doing one or two, and we realized we really needed to smash through a whole row of these cars. And we realized that if we could chew the pavement up with the wheels, you would notice not only are there no rails, but that actually these wheels shouldn't be running down this asphalt. And so we put it to Paul and the Dino guys at the last minute, can you add in these sort of cracks in the pavement, this kind of asphalt being churned up by the wheels. It was a last minute addition, but I think they did an incredible job just putting this little bit of damage. It's a subtle thing, but it really helps you realize that the train should not be there.
Now all of these fantastic sets and action scenes are really nothing without cinematography. as without cinematography you can't actually see anything. Now, the cinematography in this film is really fantastic. It seems like it's mostly handheld work, except in the action scenes where it uses very simple wide shots to show everything going on in a very simple and concise manner. Like in the hallway fight, it simply pulls back and pans around the room slightly in order to follow the two characters. This was really important in the action scenes because they can get very confusing and very massive, so it's really important that the audience could see everything clearly so that it makes it much easier for them to follow. The editing in this film is very efficient and fast-paced, so it shows you everything you need to see while cutting out all of the useless information. Because unlike what a lot of movies seem to think, we're not idiots. Now, I think the editing style of a Nolan film is probably best personified through his montages. Firstly, they are cut very fast and they only give necessary information, but they're also not shot in a way that's very clearly meant for a montage, almost as if he's actually filmed these entire scenes and then just cut them together into a short sequence, which is very similar to his editing style throughout the entire film and his entire filmography. A soundtrack is actually two things. It's the music and the score, but it's also the sound design and the sound effects. And the sound effects in this film are just brilliant. In this film, sound effects are used to further certain concepts that might be difficult to actually show on screen or to properly portray to the audience. Like when a character is going into a dream, they're going under, you'll notice the sound effects sort of distort and the background sounds kind of fade out as the character enters the dream and then suddenly cut in to whatever the sound background is for the actual dream that they are in. And within the actual dreams, the sound effects can be used to further this idea of the strangeness of the actual dream. Like when gravity starts shifting in the dreams, there is this slowed down sound, almost like a massive metal machine far in the distance. And the use of Non Regrette Rien is also very interesting because as they get lower and lower through the levels of the dream, the song becomes much more intense and much more distorted and much more almost like it's being played very loudly in the distance rather than right into your ear. I also love the use of the foghorn, not only to intensify the music but also to intensify the scenes and the movie itself. Plus, it is extremely iconic to this film. Speaking of which, the music in this film is absolutely phenomenal. Hans Zimmer's score is just fantastic as always. It can be as grand and intense as the 1812 Overture, but also as elegant and beautiful as Beethoven, while still maintaining the very unique emotional mood of the entire film. And the way each song is used in the film is also very interesting because they are never played in quite the same way twice. So not only does that make it so that every song is perfectly suited for the scene that it's playing in, but it also means that you never quite hear the same thing twice. Now, my absolute favorite song in this film has to be Time, and I love that throughout the film you get very subtle hints of it here and there, but you never actually hear it properly until the very end of the film, where it is allowed to completely swell and just take over the entire soundtrack, leading to such a beautiful and intense ending. I've said it in the last video, but I absolutely love when a film's climax feels like its own short film, and this one absolutely does that. I mean, this climax is absolutely one of the best sequences I have ever seen in film. It's edited in a way that gives a very realistic amount of time for each scene, but it's also done in a way that gives a very clear distinction between each level of the dream. And it also does what any good climax should do, where it takes every idea presented in this film to their logical extreme. The train imagery shown in Cobb's dreams and his memories of Maul is taken to the extreme of having a freight train literally crash into him. The subtle gravity shifts that we see throughout every dream in this film is taken to the complete extreme of having gravity completely spin and creating one of the coolest shots in the entire movie, and my personal favorite shot. And the kicks which we see throughout the movie are taken to the extreme of having Cobb and Ariadne go through 4 kicks simultaneously, which is just awesome. Even the opening scene of the film gets its full context, which allows the entire story to come full circle. Christopher Nolan is absolutely my favorite filmmaker ever, and this is absolutely my favorite film of his. In fact, I ultimately consider this film the theatrical experience that I never got to have. As with any Nolan film, this movie is incredibly fun and exciting, whilst also being a very deep and thought-provoking poetic story. As an aspiring filmmaker, this movie and all of Nolan's movies are something that I have and always will look up to. It might not be perfect, but Inception gets pretty damn close. Thank you all for watching this installment of the Retrospective review. If you did enjoy, please leave a like, comment, maybe even subscribe. Thank you all again for watching, and have a nice day.